So I thought I'd just make a few words on the Pacquiao-Algieri fight. As I mentioned in my other boxing videos, unfortunately I don't have pay-per-view, so I couldn't watch the fight live. Also, I was working at the time. I was in Edinburgh. So obviously the results come out now. Pacquiao has won. Not a huge surprise, but it sounds, from what I gather, it sounds like he's won quite profoundly. Algieri was on the canvas 6 times. It certainly sounds like quite a bad defeat for Algieri. I haven't seen any footage of the fight, so I really cannot comment in detail on what happened in the fight. It's hard luck on Algieri, but that's the way boxing goes. One man wins, one man doesn't. Admittedly, I'd been following the sort of build-up to this fight for a while. I'd watched the press conferences and so on, which is all I can do. I don't have pay-per-view, I've only got YouTube. I'd read up, obviously, in the following magazines. There's articles in Boxing News, Boxing Monthly, and so on. I do feel bad for Algieri because he's clearly a talented young man. He's got a lot ahead of him, and as much as I'm a Manny Pacquiao fan, I mean, this is a fight I wouldn't have minded who won because I like both guys, but it is hard luck on Algieri because obviously it breaks his winning streak, and had Algieri won, I think we would have seen the emergence of a new superstar. Now, I think Algieri still has a lot of potential. If he gets a few big fights and he wins them, he could be a future Hall of Famer, and I think he still has a lot of potential. I would basically say the same thing about him as I said about Canelo Alvarez after the Mayweather fight. Obviously the circumstances are different. Alvarez is much younger and he'd had more fights, and I'm not comparing the two situations, but just there you have two very talented fighters who took on two great fighters, and in both cases the great fighters won. But both Alvarez and Algieri, I think, have a lot of potential. And when Mayweather and Pacquiao leave the scene, I think those are the sort of guys that are going to be dominating the sport. So there will still be a lot of interest in them. Algieri, of course, is older. He's 30, and he's made it clear he doesn't want to be in boxing for a very long time. So I'm not sure how far he can go. One of the write-ups kind of said one of the things about an untested fighter, untested in the sense he hasn't been beaten. I shouldn't say untested because he had that war with Provodnikov, but one thing about a fighter who hasn't been beaten, you don't know how far they can ascend. Well, we know now Algieri got beaten by Pacquiao, but that doesn't mean he can't have big fights ahead, and it doesn't mean that he can't sort of regain credibility as a potential superstar fighter. I mean, let's not forget Pacquiao has lost fights as well. So in boxing, being undefeated is not the only thing. It's also about who you fight. Algieri, respect to him for facing Pacquiao, and respect to Pacquiao for really cementing that he is a great fighter. But now the thing has to be Pacquiao versus Mayweather. That is a fight that every boxing fan wants to see. It's a fight that would be phenomenal. It would be bigger than Ali Foreman. I honestly believe it would be bigger than that, because the hype, the lead up has been much longer. I don't know how long there was talk of an Ali Foreman fight before that happened in 1974 in Kinshasa, but by the way, we've just passed the 40th anniversary of that. But I do believe that the consequences of these guys fighting after so many years of talk would be huge. I mean, it might be true that they're both past their prime, although that in itself I think is debatable. Some say Pacquiao has slowed down, some say Mayweather has slowed down, but I still think they're very formidable fighters, and they're still both superstars. So whatever way you look at it, would it be as big as it was in maybe 2010, 2012? Maybe not, but I think it is still going to be a huge fight. I still think it has the potential to be the biggest fight in boxing history ever, simply because you have two superstars, two icons, especially in the case of Pacquiao, who is a personification of a nation, and Floyd Mayweather, who's the highest paid athlete in the world and the top ranked boxer. It would be a huge fight. So now if these guys, well, Pacquiao for his part has called Mayweather out, so Mayweather, some have said the businessman side of Mayweather will go against it, but now Mayweather can't really have any excuses. I think, as a boxing fan, that is a fight I would like to see. I won't be able to watch it live, unfortunately, because I simply don't have pay-per-view, but it would be huge. I may well be in China at that time. I think 2015 showdown between Mayweather and Pacquiao would be huge, and boxing needs this because of the rivalry from MMA. Where would it be? What would be an ideal situation? Well, I think that maybe, I mean, where would be an ideal venue? Vegas is obviously where a lot of big fights happen, but because this would be a unique fight, I think the promoters would do well to give this fight some unique sort of feel. By the way, it can happen because HBO and Showtime got together for the Tyson Lewis fight, so it's not impossible for the two organisations to get together. In terms of where, I think if it was in Vegas that would be boring, simply because all the big fights are in Vegas, or most of them. Macau, well, Macau is becoming the new Vegas, but I think a third destination, where, admittedly, I don't really know, but if this fight happens, it's going to be massive. So, boxing fans, let me know your thoughts. Pacquiao fans, Mayweather fans. Incidentally, I'm not going to make any secret of it. I'm a Pacquiao fan over Mayweather. I just prefer him, basically. I don't take anything away from Mayweather. I think he's a great fighter, but I'm just a Pacquiao fan. Maybe I prefer Pacquiao's personality. I don't know. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. This will be a huge fight, so commiserations to Algieri, but credit for him for stepping into the ring, and he can hold his head high. It may have been a bad defeat, but I think he's got potential ahead. Pacquiao doesn't have many fights left, so I think a fight with Mayweather would be huge.